I want to move from what's going on inside the child to think about what's going on inside the classroom environment. And what are the things we need to do to make a safe classroom environment? And what are the social skills we need to teach children such that they can interact safely in the classroom and be willing to express their ideas, and then critically be willing to ask for help. And we are going to do a skill builder designed to teach that. So I want to teach kids, not only is it not bad to ask questions, it's the best thing you can do. And the more specific they are, the more I can help you. We're going to work with some blocks, and we are going to do again a skill builder I did with you at the beginning of the year, which we called Master Designer. And we did it with tangrams where you made shapes. I want to take the same idea and do it again, but I want you to imagine, okay, now I'm at a different place in the curriculum. We've just done geometry with a focus on 3D solids, and we're moving into measurement and issues like surface area and volume. And what I want academically my class to do to fit with my curriculum is I want them to practice using some of the content-specific academic language that we've been practicing throughout geometry and measurement. How do you explain patiently? How do you make eye contact with who you're talking to? How do you lean forward and engage your class? All good teaching skills that I actually want my students to learn. We're also practicing that we ask for help when we need it, and if we ask specifically, you're cluing your teacher in terms of how to help you best. So those are the two SEL skills that we're practicing in the context of this game that has to do with geometry and measurement. Okay? So once again, I'm going to model the game. And I want, as your teacher, I want you to think, okay, what are ways I'm explaining? And as students, I want you to practice asking me lots of questions. And we're going to do that whole class, okay? And then I'll let you play in your groups. I'm going to talk about the base of my structure first. And I'm going to say, in the base of my structure, there are 13 cubes. And they're set up like an X. The base of my structure is 13 cubes, and it looks like a coordinate grid. I'm guessing you might have some questions. No, I'm going to explain less clearly. But my structure isn't flat. It's not just one bottom layer. There's some towers that go up.
So my question is, if we're making sort of an X or a coordinate grid, is it even on all sides? So where it crosses, is that in the middle? Is it perfectly perpendicular, and an even number of cubes on each side?
What a great question. I can help you with that. So if you think of a coordinate grid and you think of where the origin is, where the lines cross, each of the arms, if you will, each of the axes goes up or down 3 cubes. So there's 3 towers, and one is 3 cubes tall, and the other 2 are 2 cubes tall.
Where are the towers located?
What a great question. I should have told you that. Okay, the towers, remember I talked about it like a coordinate grid with an X and a Y axis? The towers are all on the X axis, going this way, and they're in the middle. The tallest one is 3, and it's right in the middle. It's right on top of what we might call our origin. So it goes 3 up from the base. Yeah?
Are there any towers on the y-axis?
None of my towers are on the y-axis. They're all on the x, and actually they're all in the middle. Remember, when you think you have it, raise your hand and I'll check it. If you don't, we're going to keep explaining. But if you do, you're a master designer in your group and you can explain to others. Eunice, you've got it. Will you get up and check your group? And Marika, you've got it. Check your group. And Jess, you've got it. Check your group. In this game, we're still using our general group norms. No one's done until everyone's done. So you don't go on until everyone in your group has had the shape explained and they've actually made it successfully. I also want to remind you when you play, when I say check your group, I don't mean lift up your folders. I actually mean you got to stand up and look over, because if they don't have it and you lift up your folders, the game's all over. And the part of the game is continuing to explain and ask questions when it's hard. Indeed, that's a key thing that we're trying to practice. So what I'd like you to do now is play a round of Master Designer with your cubes. So The facilitator is going to be the first master designer, and if you get through that one, go ahead and choose another person to be the next master designer. The reporter role, I want to ask you to observe for the two behaviors we're really looking for. And reporters, when people ask really good questions, will you just jot them down, because we're going to talk about that whole class. What makes a really good question? Also, if somebody has used an explaining strategy that you just think, that's brilliant, that made it all clear to me, could you jot that down too for when we report back as a whole class? Okay? Go ahead and play for a few minutes.
My shape uses 7 cubes, and it starts with 1 as the base.
Only 7?
Only 7. There is 1 cube on all the faces. Do you have any questions?
So is that 1 cube on each of the 6 faces, or just the 4?
The 4, yeah. So there's 1 cube as the base, and then 1 cube on each face.
There's 1 cube in the middle, and there's cubes on all sides
so
of that
just
cube.
to start, you use the 1 cube in the middle,
Okay.
and then place a cube on each of the faces of that cube.
And that's it, right? That's all of it? Yeah. Okay, so do you check mine? I think I have it.
Yes.
That's good. Not yet, but you're almost there.
Do you have a question that I can help you with?
Wait, so you just said there was the base, so there's 1 cube on each face, the 4 faces though.
Well, no. No, all 6. All 6. Sorry, that was.
Did I get to check first? Because I got it. Yes.
Okay.
We all have it.
Do you want to be the next facilitator? Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the first x-axis, then you go to the second x-axis. There's 2 towers. They're both 3 high. Do you know where our first tower was that was 2 high? On the left side? Okay, go. It's on the 3rd cube on the x-axis. 3 high, yeah. And then if you're looking at that one, and you go over 1 block, you skip 1 block, you do another tower, it's also 3 high. And then you should have put all your cubes together.
Okay, wait. Can you check mine? I'm good?
You don't have any towers? Okay. So the first tower that we're going to do is 2 blocks high. And it's going to be on the bottom x-axis, the bottom 4, and it'll be on the far left side corner. Ready? Okay. So then your second tower that's only 2 high, you're going to go all the way down the x-axis to the right-hand corner. And you're going to go up 1 cube so that you're now on the y-axis. And that tower is only 2 high. Okay? Then you're going to go to your second x-axis, and both of those towers are going to be 3 high. The first tower is going to match up with your first 2 tower, and it's going to be on the left-hand side far corner, 3 high. Then all you're going to do on that x-axis is skip 1 cube and tower. There's 3 cubes in that tower. You got it?
You want to come check it?
Yeah. Here, you want me like here? We'll just move it like this. All right. Good job. You got it. Okay.
Okay, let me call you back. I heard some fabulous, specific explaining with all sorts of words that we would have been studying in the context of geometry and measurement. And I also heard a lot of creativity, a lot of thinking outside the mathematical box and explaining in new and creative ways. What I would like to do is hear from a few reporters in the groups on what were particularly brilliant moments of explanation or strategies for explaining, as well as what were questions that really helped the group.
There was, at one point, as we were getting some of the basics, so we were making squares, we were losing. She said, she gave us a visual. She said it looks sort of like the way a hamburger is built. And all of a sudden it became, we're up off the table and now we're stacking, and that was a huge, explanation for us. Yeah, that was like a key moment where I was like, oh, I was doing things like this. And it was like, oh, okay. So
So,
helps.
Jeannie, you were the explainer in that group, yes? And I just want to say, you could be a teacher when you grow up. Because one of our best teaching strategies is related to something that kids know.
Yeah.
And then they can connect it to what they know, and they can work with it. It's one of the smartest things you can do as a teacher.
Yeah,
Nice,
that was
very
great.
nice. How about group 2?
Alexa was the one having us build the little shape. And one thing that she did, what I really liked, was when they had to build a line of 7 cubes, when she wanted them to build on top of it, she said, okay, think of it, each cube as a number. So starting from the left side, this is 1, 2, 3. Now look at cube 2, and then you're going to put a cube on top of that cube. So
it
she
was
was very specific so that they didn't have to ask the question like, well, which cube, what side am I starting from, or because each cube had a number. So I thought that was really
Brilliant,
interesting.
brilliant. Using our number system in a new and creative way to explain your cubic structures. Very nice. So I want to remind you that if I'm doing this in my class in the middle of the year, I had 2 goals. One is to let you practice using language, and I want to point out, as we've talked many times in this class, we can't teach children to use the language of math by talking at them. We actually have to let them talk. And this game gives me that opportunity in that context such that kids can practice using the very language we've been teaching. That's my academic objective. But I had 2 SEL objectives too. The first was that we could really practice, and you guys did it beautifully, explaining patiently, sometimes explaining with great humor. When it doesn't work, I heard a lot of laughter, which is a marvelous strategy. It's like, ha, that didn't work. Patience, humor, engaging, many ways. That was my explaining objective, which is a social skill that's going to be critical in learning mathematics. And then finally, and we will touch on this again in our next lesson, the issue of kids need to know it's not bad to ask questions. It's not a sign that you don't know. It's the best adaptive behavior you can do. It's the best way to learn is to seek help when you need it, and then if you can, to ask very specific questions so that you get the help you need. Once again, I say to you, these skills can be taught. They can't be taught by just talking to kids about them. They have to be taught by letting kids practice the skills and frankly then reflect on the fact that, you know, it worked when I was patient. It worked when I tried a lot of different strategies. It worked when I burst into laughter and it wasn't working, but that made it work again and we were all willing to try. It worked when I asked really specific questions. It worked when I jumped right in and said, wait a minute, I need a little more time. Those are good things to do. I want kids to feel very safe to do them in my classroom, and I also want them to be very good at doing it. And that's what this skill builder is also about.